Are you still seeing my screen correctly?
Yep.
Okay, awesome. I was trying to get it in presenter view and it was giving me some challenges. So I'm glad we squared that up that you can see it.
Good evening, everyone.
Hi, how you doing?
All is well. Thank you, everyone, for showing up tonight. Should be a good conversation.
Yes, I see you moving in the streets.
Gotta keep it moving. I have 3 events at the same exact time.
Oh my
So
goodness.
we're gonna make
The
it work.
life of an AM.
So yes, you feel free to use the chat for conversation as well, everyone. If you want to introduce yourself in the chat, feel free to do so. If there's anything you want to make sure you learn tonight, let us know. For my staff, please drop our contact information in the chat now and throughout the night so that everyone has access. Do we have a start time or waiting on me? What's happening?
I'm waiting for you guys to give me the green light. If we could go on, I'm ready.
We're good to go.
So thank you guys for having me. Big shout out to you, Assembly Member Jackson, for your commitment to financial education, generational wealth, and all of those good things finance. I am your moderator tonight, Minyela Kemphy Reed. I am a World of Money financial education presenter. I've been with World of Money since the beginning. So shout out to Sabrina Lamb and World of Money for their commitment as well to financial education. Tonight, we're going to get into the juicy topic of credit. It is one of the things that I talk about the most, and it's the most requested topic because of how important it is for today. They are pulling your credit for jobs. They are pulling your credit for housing, for insurance. They are looking at your credit worthiness for all types of activities and all types of access. So it's really important that you not only understand credit, but you deem it important in your life because you will need it to gain access to things that are important. My background, I've been in financial education for about 20 years. I started actually looking for a way to pay off my own student debt and my own student loans and achieve home ownership. And I met with a financial advisor and I realized how much I didn't know about finances. And I was uncomfortable. I mean, there was a ton of emotions that I felt because here I was, graduate, felt like I was very smart and that I should have known all of these things and I didn't. So after that meeting and I started to get myself together, I got committed. I mean, I was relentless with telling everyone, every time I met with the advisor, I was telling them what I learned. And I got on this journey of financial advising and then led to coaching, dealt with a couple of RIAs, and now I am strictly in the coaching lane and I write financial literacy content and curriculum for organizations. So that's just a little bit about myself. My philosophy on credit and everything finance is that we owe it to our ancestors. I mean, 250 years of slavery, 90 years of Jim Crow, the separate but not equal, 30 years of racist housing policy. It's too long for us to have been shut out, for us to have access and not be utilizing it. Now, I will say, please take that with a caveat. There's a lot of barriers still to gaining access to full financial freedom. However, we can do what we can. So I wanted to set the tone for the night, and I'm saying let's get some things straight. So the things we're going to get straight is that I need you guys to be interactive with me. I know that it's the end of the day. I want you to keep an open mind, ask your questions, call me out if you don't understand anything, and commit to putting at least one thing in practice that you learned. So I want to see thumbs up, cheers. I wish they had the snaps in Zoom, but I think, one thing at a time. We got skin tone, so one thing at a time. At some point, we'll have the snaps to be able to snap when someone says something that you like. We're going to get right into this credit thing. So the objectives for tonight is...
Let's address everyone really quickly. Sorry, I was walking, trying to do two things at once. Thank you, first of all, for even hosting this for us. Really important. I haven't done it in almost 2 years, so I'm really excited that we are back on it. Financial literacy and financial freedom, it's so important because my district, sorry, people keep calling me. My district is majority low income people living in poverty. And the best way to get out of it is through education. And so this is going to provide us with the simple steps we need to build our credit. And what I was saying on my live is credit is easy to fix. It may be in shambles right now, but within a matter of weeks and months, we can get it together. So don't give up. There's some small habits we're going to have to change so we can get it right. I shared that I was able to purchase a car today. They looked at my credit and was like, oh, she's good. And what that means is I don't have to put no money down, very low interest rates. And I would love for everybody else to have that same exact experience. So let's get with it.
Those are some of the objectives, and that is what's up, because that is what it's about. It's about having that access and not overpaying for money is at the end of the day. So we're going to try to get through as much of this as possible, but definitely want you to understand, recognize the role of your mindset. We're going to define credit report and credit score. I'm going to do that really quickly because I presume most people understand at least the baseline and really want to know, okay, so how do I build it? How do I clean it up? So understanding the mindset. Everything starts with the mind. I am if you see me on anything, you hear me, you listen to anything that I've done in the past, read anything, it's all about your mindset. I am sold out to that because it starts in your mind. And we don't get a lot of inspiration visually. And sometimes when we look to the left and to the right in our everyday, we see all of the glitz and glam on Instagram. But when you look at your family, when you look at your community, sometimes it's really tough to see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and you have to really say, how do I view credit? Do I feel like it's important? Do I look at credit as something to abuse? Do I think when I'm swiping my credit card, I'm never going to have to pay that back and I don't care if I get into debt? Starting there is going to be the most important, because I could tell you all of these tools, but if your attitude is, who cares about credit? When I die, I'm just going to die with a lot of debt and who cares? Then none of this matters. You need a why. Why is credit important to you? And so that's what I was alluding to. Why is it important to you? Emergency purposes is a good reason. Times that you don't have cash, you can use it as leverage. It allows you to pay for large purchases over time. And it can help you obtain employment, housing, and insurance. And it also can shut you out of those three as well. So that's why it's important generally, but you need your own why. You need to check your mindset, and then you need your own why as to why are you building credit? Why is it important to you? So credit. Credit is the ability of customers to obtain goods or services without having to pay for them right away. We know that. Your credit score, I like to use this definition, is a numerical summary of your credit report. It helps to determine your risk. So when we talk about our credit score, it's really just a numerical summary of your actual report. And then your report is details about your credit and your financial history. We often hear good credit, bad credit, and that's what we're really talking about is our credit worthiness. And so when you went to buy that car, they looked at your credit worthiness, assembly member, and said, "Oh, you good. We see that you have a track record of consistently managing your debt according to the terms that you agree to." And that's where we often forget is when we start talking about bad credit and we're like, "Oh, I don't know why I have bad credit. I don't know would you loan money to you?" That's the question that you need to ask. Would I loan money to myself? Do I have a good history of paying back loans? And then the higher your credit, the better your credit, you get better interest rates. You get to save money because you don't have to put money down. And the lower your credit score, it's the reverse. It's the opposite. It's just like when you get a cell phone and you have to put a deposit to get your a new cell phone because of your credit. Now, I will say there is a such thing as no credit. So some people have bad credit and then there's no credit. And no credit is just as detrimental as, well, I won't say it's not good at either because they need to see that you have a history of paying your debts and also managing your commitments in terms of financials. So is it better to have bad credit or no credit? It's going to be better to have no credit, but we don't want to deal in that space at all. We want to work on having respectable credit and we want to utilize credit because we understand the importance. Any questions? I'll pause there for a second. Questions, comments? All right. So the three main purposes for credit: emergencies, built credit, and leverage. Emergencies, if you have an emergency and you have credit, you're able to whip out that credit card. I mean, I always say that if you manage your credit, and just like Chantel said in the beginning, if you manage your credit and you have an emergency, you'll be able to pull from those credit cards. You'll be able to go get a loan to get yourself out of a situation. And credit is fluid. You could be bad today and good tomorrow, up today and down tomorrow. So I always say that when you look at it, you want to maintain it so that it's always in a position so that it's working for you. So emergencies, you also want to use it to build credit, and you also want to use it to leverage. So leverage is simply using it to get the results you want. So saving money, make other investments. Because you have good credit, people are going to loan you money. You also can earn cash, like cash back for credit cards. You get better credit card offers for travel, perks, merchandise for free. I mean, they love to see that you pay your bills and you manage your commitments. They'll throw everything at you. So much so that even when you have good credit, you have to make sure that you're still managing it, because a lot of times we get ourselves out of a credit situation, maintain our credit, is looking good, and we start to get all of these offers and we get overwhelmed because everybody wants to get us money. Give us money. It's still a game, right? So they make money when you don't pay. That's when they make the most money. So you have to look at it and remember that game, because it will have you getting a lot of credit because you have access to it and then shooting yourself in the foot. So credit scores. Your credit score, as I said, is a numerical summary of your credit report. It also helps to determine your risk, right? If you have a low credit score, we're like, I don't really know if I want to give that person any money because it looks like they cannot manage their obligations. There's two types of credit scores: FICO, which is very familiar. The most popular is still is the GOAT. Most people at lenders are using this. It's FICO, it's the Fair Isaac Credit Corporation. Fair Isaac Corporation, it's their score, and then the Vantage score. The Vantage score was created by the 3 credit bureaus. So the 3 credit bureaus are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. They got together and created a score. What I will say is that when you look at the Vantage score and what they're doing, they are really taking a different position on credit. And their scoring models are a lot more lenient, and they also are a lot more biased. You'll see a lot of studies coming out, and I really honestly feel like over the next couple of years, if they keep pushing in the way that they're going, they may take the spot as the #1 scoring model. I will say that they have, and we'll talk about it a little later, they offer more flexibility in the way that they score. Oh, just one point here is that when you borrow money, you need to ask which score they use, because that will help you as you start to look at your reports and your score. It will help you to understand where you're going to sit with that creditor. Again, a lot of them use FICO, but people are starting to use Vantage score, especially for first-time home buying programs and a lot of programs that to level the playing field for Black and brown folks. So you need to ask. Another thing to understand is that not each of these scores have different versions of the score. So you might have a company that's using FICO 3.0 and another company that's using FICO 7.0. So just know that. And the reason why I mentioned that is when you're looking at your score, they could vary. That's why if you look at Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, a lot of times your scores vary a little bit, should vary slightly. They should not be 75 points difference, 50 points. 50 points is something to actually look at as well. They should be a couple points off. Any questions, comments on that? Awesome. So just going over a good score generally, 619 and under is poor, 620 to 679 is below average, 680 to 719 is average. You should be looking to build it up. 720 to 749 is good. You might not qualify for all the prime rates, depending on what you're looking at, but you will qualify for a lot of them. And 750 and above is great. So the 5 elements of a credit score. You have payment history, amounts owed, length of credit history, new credit, and types of credit used. So if you see payment history, it is 35% of your credit score. So as I'm going over, and these are the FICO numbers, Vantage score, really, they publish percentages, but they're not really publishing. They just say payment history is extremely influential. So you know that it's about 35, 40%. So payment history, you need to pay your bills on time, at least the minimum payment. The one thing that people get tripped up on here is they say they look at the bill, comes in the mail, they've spent all types of money that they know they didn't have. They get the bill has a lower amount, a minimum payment, and they say, I don't have it. I'm not, this balance is too, and then they throw it and they toss it and they don't pay anything. At least try to pay the minimum amount. Another thing that happens is that you look at the due date and you say, that ain't happening. There's a lot of stuff going on. That's not happening. You need to contact your creditor right away. If you know that you're going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks late, call them. Call them. That goes a long way. When you call them and you say, listen, is something came up? Can you move my due date? Can you put a note on my account? All of those things matter because the 3 credit reporting agencies, they're getting this data from your creditors. And your creditors have the power to say, look, I'm not going to report this delinquent. I'm going to report this still up to date because I see this note that says Miguel is going through something right now. She had a death in her family. Whatever. Even if you're not telling them all, because you really don't have to tell them exactly what's going on. If you just extend the courtesy to say you're going to be late, it goes a long way. So if anything, if you go away with anything, pay your bills and pay them on time if you can. And if you cannot, call the creditor. The next is your, amounts owed. So 30% of your credit score is the amounts owed. And that means, what is the balance? A lot of times you'll hear people refer to this as the debt to income ratio. Before I finish that, I see a raised hand. Yes?
Okay, so I just want to also add that even if you are late on your payment, right, your creditors can excuse your late fee. So it's really important just to call them and even make the ask so that they can remove that late fee, and you can take that off your credit. It doesn't go to your credit report. Just want to throw that in there.
100%. And if you're going to be really late, usually they say past 30 days, they could report it as delinquent, but you can tell them, look, I'm going to pay it on the 35th day and say, I want my card to remain up to date. So they have the ability to, it's them reporting. It's like a report. Some of them do it automatically. Some of them do it every, multiple times a month. Some of them do it every 2 months. They all have different schedules. So it's really important for you to communicate with your creditor. So the debt to income, the debt to available credit ratio, which is 30%, they want to know, how much debt are you carrying, right? So what percentage of your credit limit are you using? And that is also highly influential for the Vantage score. So both the FICO and the Vantage score look at payment history and credit limit as highly influential. For payment history, for the Vantage score, it's extremely influential. So meaning it holds the most weight. So you really want to make sure that if you have a credit card, you are only using about 30% of the available credit. So if you have $1,000 credit limit, you're only using about $300. It's really important to look at that. And they also look at, if you have more than one credit card, you're going to want to calculate that for all of it, the average, because remember, your credit report and your credit score is a summary of all of that information. So it's really important not to be maxing out your credit cards every month and then carrying the balance. Now, if you have to max out your credit cards because you got a situation, you have to buy something that you need to max it out, you should be trying to pay that out by the statement date that is listed on your statement. The difference between the statement date and the due date is that you will not incur interest if you pay it by the statement date. So it's really important to understand that. So if you are going out and you're using all of your available credit, and just make sure that you are trying to bring that down so that when they're reporting, they see that, okay, you use it, but you brought it back down. So that score is going to be fluctuating up and down as it does all the time. So 15% is the length of your credit history. They want to know, how long have you been doing this? Like, how long you've been in credit game. That's why a lot of times people say, do not cancel the card that you've had for the longest. I will add something to that, because at times dealing with clients, they may have a card that they had a long time, but that card has caused them so much stress and so much anxiety because they were trying to pay it off and the creditor was not kind to them. And I've told them, from a mental standpoint, cancel it. If it's causing your mental capacity to be disturbed and you do not feel like holding that card, and every time you see it is bringing up all types of trauma and emotional instability, cancel that card, especially if we get your credit up, because we can replace that. And I will say again, credit, it's going to depend. I would not give that advice to someone who was trying to buy a house, trying to buy a car, If that person was just getting out of debt, was not using their credit for anything, I would allow that. I would suggest that for their emotional and financial sanity that they cancel that. So the total balances and debt is moderately influential for your Vantage score. So you can see how they look at these things pretty much the same, but there is, some differences. The last two percentages of your FICO score, as well as your Vantage score, is going to be the new credits you apply for and the type of credit you use. So it does matter what type of credit you are using. Meaning, if I pull your credit report and all I see is credit cards, I'm going to say, okay, let's see how much limit this person's using. Are they financing their lifestyle all with debt? So just like they recommend in the financial world to diversify your portfolio, I say you have to diversify your credit report as well. It's really important to show all types of debt. That means mortgage, if you have one, revolving credit, as well as installment. So credit that changes every month, the amount changes. So it's, installment and revolving. So credit cards, revolving installment payments will be something like your car payment. So where that amount is the same every month. They like to see a range of credit, like a well-diversified credit report, because it just shows that you're maintaining all different types of debt and that you're committed to keeping all of those in line. And then the new credit that you apply for, they're looking at, okay, are you applying only for credit cards? Are you applying only for, car loans? And those count as little dings. There are two types of inquiries. There's a hard inquiry, which does go against your credit report. So that's if you're applying for things that you've applied for. So you're going in to ask for to be approved for a car loan, a mortgage, a credit card. Those are all hard inquiries. And then there's the inquiries that people run to send you those credit card offers in the mail, as well as if you have insurance, sometimes car insurance, if you look at your credit report, they're checking your report all the time. Your bank account, you'll see a lot of inquiries from them. Those are all soft inquiries. One thing to note on there, the Vantage score and the FICO score do look at shopping windows a little differently. So with the Vantage score, it gives you a 15-day shopping rate, which means that if you are shopping around for a car, it'll give you 15 days to look for cars at different and try to basically compare interest rates and offers. It's going to give you a 15-day shopping window, and all those inquiries will count as one inquiry. And then for the FICO score, they're going to give you a 45-day window. So it's a lot longer, same thing. And that's important to know so that when you are applying, okay, let me try to get this within 15 days. 45 days is a long time to be shopping for one type of debt. So that's generous. I think within 15 days, 2 weeks, you should be able to get all of your inquiries in. Any questions? All right, moving right along. You used to only be able to get your credit report once annually. Now you are able to get it weekly. So if you have errors on your credit report, which we will talk about, that you don't know about, shame on you, because you can go to annualcreditreport.com and pull your credit report from all 3 credit bureaus for free weekly. Now, some of us have services where we are looking at our credit report through our Chase app, our banking partner. If you look at the bottom, those are sometimes powered by one of the 3 credit agencies. Sometimes there's another credit report that, like Credit Karma, has their own type of algorithm that gives you a score, but you want to focus on what's on your report from these 3 agencies. You cannot get your credit score for free unless you sign up for one of these services, or if you are applying for a mortgage, sometimes they'll tell you your credit score. But there is a company that I do work for. It's called Mochify. They do have the Blueprint app. The Blueprint app is amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I do work with them. The Blueprint app is amazing because not only do you get your TransUnion, a version of your TransUnion your Experian credit score, but you also see how your activity is impacting your credit score in each of the 5 categories I talked about. So you're able to literally look and say, okay, I just applied for something, my score went down 2 points. And other services have it as well. I like the Blueprint because it gives you a wealth of information in there. You can prepare for home ownerships. It's going to look at if you link all your accounts, it'll do all of that. So that's a way to get a score for free without you having to say, oops, I forgot to cancel Credit Karma or one of those other services. Any questions on that or comments? Great. Thank you. Okay, information on your credit report. Identifying information, so your name, your last 4 digits of your social. It's going to have your credit history, your inquiries, and any public record information. It is very important. A lot of times we get our credit report and we're so focused on the accounts that we are not paying attention to the information at the top. And that is really important because that is where you spot identity theft. So if you see a social that's not your last 4 digits, that's cause for alarm. And you want to fix that. You want to dispute it and you want to fix it. We're so used to disputing things that are wrong with the accounts. We're not looking at the top to see if our addresses are correct, like past addresses, employers. They have your old employers. You want to make sure all that identifying information is correct. And 75% of all reports have errors. I mean, that number fluctuates year to year, but it stays high. So you definitely want to make sure that identifying information, your credit history, you want to look at that, not just looking at, is it in collections or is it up to date? Look at those months to see if those months if they're correct. Like you'll know if you fell on hard times between January or March and you were 30 days or 60 days late. So if that information is not correct, you want to contact the creditor immediately and try to get that rectified because you want to be judged on things you did. It needs to be accurate. And if we have time, I'll show you. I have a sample credit report to show you, but I really think it's important the identifying information is where we get tripped up a lot because we don't pay attention to it. And then we end up finding out that we are a victim of identity theft. And it was right on our report all along. Public record, that's judgments, updated tax liens, collections, bankruptcies, all of that is listed on the report as well. And negative information stays on your report 7 years, 10 years if it's a bankruptcy. And there are ways that if you notice, if you're at the 7-year mark or getting very close, a lot of times creditors will call you and try to negotiate. Just ignore those calls. Do not engage because a lot of times we may say something that starts the clock over. And that's what will happen. You'll see a creditor on your report and you're like, oh, I'm not paying it. It's law. They charge it off. It's all good. I'm moving on. That's my only negative item. And soon as it's 6 years, they're trying to send you all types of letters, threatening, calls. Do not engage because a lot of times we engage in a way that allows them to reset that clock, and we don't want that. So what your credit report does not contain: checking and savings account balances, income, medical history, all of the personal information, business account information, your race, your gender, your sex. Now, it doesn't include that, but we do know that we're still discriminated against it in a lot of those areas. So it's just know that it's not through your credit report. Your credit report is not reporting that information, or your driving record. If you see something on your credit report that is incorrect, you can dispute it right on the website with that credit bureau. So when you go to annualcreditreport.com and you see something that's incorrect, you need to update it on that site. And you could do that for free, which I'll go over some of the scams. You could do that for free. You don't have to pay anyone. You know, if your number, your last 4 digits are 758 or 728, you know that information. You don't need a credit counselor to tell you that, or someone that says they're going to give a magic pill to clean up your credit. You can do that yourself. So you want to dispute, and you need to dispute it with all 3 if it is incorrect on all 3. It's not just one and then they communicate with all of them. It doesn't work. You need to communicate. You need to dispute it on each of those reports. So you want to send a dispute, you receive a response, and then you send your dispute to a creditor or the information provider. So that's step 3. It depends if they don't take it off. So what I like to say is you receive a response. They have generally about 30 days to respond to you. You're going to see if they wait another 30 days. If that information does not remove itself, you're going to send your dispute to the creditor directly, or the information provider. Because a lot of times when you receive a response and they say it's going to come off, it does. If it doesn't, that's when you want to send your dispute to the creditor directly or information provider. And I have dispute letters as well that I can provide. So clean up your credit report. Like I said, 75% of all reports have errors. It's your responsibility. You want to contact the credit reporting agency. You want to write a letter disputing the error. Credit reporting agencies, as I said, they must contact you within 30 days of receiving the letter to tell you a response. They may ask for additional information. You want to give them the additional information. You don't want to drop the ball on your side. You want to be on it, because this is your livelihood, and you want to be judged on what is accurate and what you actually did. So to build your credit history, you could apply for a small bank loan. Credit unions are great. If you have access to a credit union, they are great. Small local banks, they are great for helping you build back your credit. You could apply for a credit at a local store. So a store or a major store that you feel like you shop at all the time, those could be great. And when it comes to local store cards, I will say, please be careful in just applying to any store card. Apply to a store card. Apply for a card to a store that you are going to use. Oh, I love school loans help build credit. Yes, absolutely. So pay them on time, or get whatever deferments or all those things you need to, if you're not going to pay your school loans. So make large down payments and negotiate credit payments. So if you have money, so you're a good saver, but you may have had bad credit in the past, you messed up your credit in the past, doesn't mean that you can't fix it. Again, credit is fluid and it's resilient, and it could come back up today, down tomorrow, or down today and up tomorrow. You could ask a friend or a relative to co-sign a loan for you. That is asterisk, 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 asterisk. You want to make sure that it's someone that trusts you. And because I don't suggest co-signing for anyone unless they are your family and you absolutely know that they are going to make their best effort to pay you back. Another way is to be a card holder. Don't do it. I know. It's one of those things that it is a no, but depending on the situation, I've seen very successful and I've seen not successful. And a lot of times the not successful situations where people not really knowing the person, doing it out of emotions, not using their heart versus their head. Got to use both in this situation. The one way to get around that, which is something that I've done for a family member, is I'll just add them as a card holder on my account. And so all of that good credit history will transfer to their credit report. And so holding them, carrying them as a second card holder basically helps them build their credit. Now, they won't be able to get it right away, just like if you co-sign. So if I co-sign for a loan, that's kind of an immediate fix. But over time, you can. I have a question. What about asking your company for a loan? You mean your employer? David, you mean your employer? Yes. I have not seen that successful unless they offer that. There are some companies that offer emergency financing to employees. I have seen that. I have seen where the employer has a fund, a trust fund, where they make small loans to employees. So that is something to explore if that's a benefit that your employer has.
I just added my daughter when she was 17, turning 18 to my credit, and within a year, her credit score went up to 750. So.
Yep. And let me tell you something. That's the cheat code. So doing that, especially for our kids, that is the cheat code, so that when they go apply for an apartment at whatever time, or a card, or if you're helping them buy their first home, they already have a credit file. And so if we're comfortable with doing that, is something to do, and you help someone build their credit, especially individuals that have no credit files. And I like Ruth, I like your comment. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So building your credit history, you want to pay your bills on time. We stress that. Very, very important to pay your bills on time. You want to ask lenders to review utility bills and other bills to grant you credit. So Experian Boost is a service that does that. Sometimes your company, your bank account may have a service that does that, where you can get credit for paying utility bills. You can get credit for your activity in your checking account. You want to look for those companies that do that and just vet them and also understand, because a lot of times the companies that will report utility bills, your rent payment, a lot of times we may not pay any bills, but we're paying our rent. You want to get credit for that if you can, especially if you're trying to build your credit. If your credit is in a stable place, you don't have to get those services. Sometimes there's a cost to those services, so it may not be in your best interest if your credit is steady. But if you have no credit, or you have a very thin credit file, those are opportunities to increase your credit score. You want to keep your debt levels low, and then you want to make regular deposits into your savings account. Of course, just have to put that in there. Did you have a question? Anyone have a question, comment? Awesome. So credit report scams. We are getting to the end of this, and I want to leave a couple minutes for any questions or comments. No one can remove accurate information from your credit report. I like to say that it sounds very simple, but with the rise of social media and all of the information that's out there, a lot of times it could appear that there's this magic wand that you wave and all your credit problems go away. I will say I appreciate the information that's being shared about the different laws that you can throw back if you're having challenges getting something removed from your credit, but no one can remove accurate information from your credit report. It could take months, years, to repair bad credit legitimately, or it could be really quickly. It just depends what your credit file looks like. So just know that everyone's situation is different, and no one can create a new identity for you. We could just wipe it clean and you could start all over. You have to build it. But it is, just saying it is fluid. It can be up to date and down tomorrow. And you can order a credit report yourself. You don't need anyone to help you. You don't need to pay anyone. Someone can help you. I can help you pull it if you are having challenges on annual credit report, or someone who has experience in that. But you don't need to pay anyone to order your credit report. It is for free, and now they are offering it weekly. So thank you. That wraps it, but I want to open it up for any questions. Any questions, comments, or things that you want to cover? Those were the core nuggets, the basic information. One thing I will mention is that I went over the 5 categories of your credit score and the 6 for your Vantage score. Know that that's why it's important to really monitor your credit, because the impact on each of those areas is going to be different for each individual person. For instance, I may lose 3 points for a late payment, and Chelsea, who has her hand up, I'll get to you, I'll call you next, she may lose 20 points for that same action. So it really depends on your whole credit file. And that's really important to understand, because knowing the basis, but they don't really publish exactly how many points for each activity. They have ranges, but again, it's going to be different for each individual person because they're looking at the full picture. Chelsea?
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you. This was so informative, and I really appreciated the lens in which you shared through, because it doesn't feel like disparaging or like I've lost all hope and, like I can't get my mind around it.
Yes.
So thank you for that. My question is in regards to paying off your cards and then cards closing because you've paid them off. So like now I paid off a ton of debt like 2 years ago, and they've been pretty much at zero, but now my cards are all closing down because of lack of use. And I just wonder what the best course of action, or what are things that I should consider in regards to using them to keep them alive or letting them go.
Yes. So I will say that burns my butt, because what they'll do is they will harass you to pay, and then you pay and you tell them you may be communicating with them. That happened to my husband. He was communicating. He forgot about a card, ended up paying it. We paid it off, and then they closed the account. They didn't tell us they were going to close it. They didn't say pay it and then we're going to close the account, and they didn't put it to collection. So there was no indication from our side that it should have been closed, but they did that. If you still have the cards, if you paid them, if you're paying them and you've seen the pattern of closing, what I suggest is that for each of those cards, if you have 2 or 3, I would put a bill that you know you're going to pay. So cell phone, utility bill, you pay that on your credit card and then pay it back as if you were paying the bill. Because on the flip side, playing devil's advocate, it does cost the credit card companies to hold cards. As I said, they're in the business of making money, and they are betting on you not paying. And so if you're a person that has no activity, they don't know what your hand's gonna play. So they're like, oh, I'm not making any money from her. She's not even using her card. There is an administrative cost for us carrying this card. Let's get this off our books. And they don't have any respect for what it would do for your side. They're looking at solely their gain. So we definitely have to look at, if you're closing them, put something on it, whether it's a cell phone, after school payment, something that you know you pay all the time. That's a great question. I think Nikita, is that how you say it? Is that how you say your name? Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time and for the information. I have a quick question. So I like unfortunately found myself in a situation where like it was not good financially, and I had a couple of cards close out, which really made me sad. And so like I know that's not good to have that on my report, but a question would be, I know that credit history and the amount that you're carrying, those are two big things. It would be better to focus on, like, I mean, yes, pay on time, but would it be better to like pay down existing credit versus trying to pay off something that might have been charged off? Like, which one would have like the like, or if something is charged off, is it gonna like, is that gonna be more detrimental than trying to get down a balance?
Okay, so that's a great
So because
question
of
as well.
30%, like, and I knew that, and I knew before, like, you should have a 30%, and I have a balance that's higher than 30. So is it better to
Yep.
focus on paying off the charge off sooner or bringing down the debt to income ratio?
So two things. It depends for your charge off. It depends where it is. Is it still with the creditor? The original creditor? Like,
No.
is it still within their structure? Because sometimes it's credit one, collect, like they have all of these different. So they charge it off, and it's with the debt, with the collector, right?
Yes. It just recently went to a collector.
Okay, so I would, and your other cards have high balances.
That like the other cards that
Wanna
I have
make
that are
sure.
open have high balances that I need to pay down.
Okay, so I would tackle those simultaneously is what the strategy I would use for you. I would, one, make sure you're paying all of them on time. Put in the collection one to the side because you don't know what that payment plan is, and they're likely going to offer you, you can negotiate that debt down. More than likely, they'll always take, if it's $1,000 and you say, look, I got $600 to pay you today, will you take it and report on my credit, close and paid in full? You can try to ask them, depending on where you are, if they could bring your account current. It probably won't work because they probably took over your credit, but there's some negotiating tactics that you can say, I'm going to pay $600, but I want you to do X, Y, and Z. So that's that. For the other ones, I would look at, of those, which one has the highest interest rate, and I would pay the minimum, depending on what your budget looks like, because this is where your budget comes in. I would pay the minimum payment on all except one. Any extra money that you're putting to the others, it's called kind of snowballing is the method. I would just focus on paying them down that way, if that makes sense. So looking at which one has the highest interest rate, you have a list, which one has the highest interest rate, you're going to put all of your extra money towards paying that down, and you're going to pay the minimum payment on the others. And that's how I would tackle that.
Okay, no, thank you. Yes, and that's something I've thought about too, the snowball. And yeah, it's unfortunate, like with the, anyways, but yes, thank you. I appreciate it. And I know that one related question, because if you do work out a deal, like let's say if you owe 1,000 and they're like, we'll take 600. Is it true that it's not like it's not as helpful to do that as in paying it off in full? Like there's a difference when it comes to like when your credit is reviewed in the future?
Yeah, I would say if you're able to pay them off, great, but it's not, I mean, it already went to collections, right? So it already is in a collections account. I would say I would have to look at the full picture and what you're trying to do to see the benefit, because in my opinion, if there's a discount to be had and it already gave me a ding, like the company already wrote it off, so they already got a tax benefit for that. Now I'm dealing with the collection agency who's willing to give me a lower amount. I'm going to look to pay that, but also try to negotiate some terms that at least softens the blow.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, I am right. Look, 6:59. I appreciate that I was efficient and timely. And you guys got all, I didn't think I would be able to get through everything. So I'm excited that I was able to get through everything. I'm gonna drop my information in the chat. So if you want to email me, if you have a question that you think about after this session and you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked Mignelle this, you can just shoot me an email and I'll send you a response. Let me just put it in chat. There you go.
And yeah, I want to say thank you again. Nikita, is that a new hand or an old hand? See Nikita's hand.
Sorry, old hand. I forgot to take
Okay.
it down. All right, I just lowered it. Sorry.
Is there anything that you guys didn't get to cover today, or any next steps you want to see us do moving forward? Like, we can go more into detail about one thing over another. Credit is so much information. Is there anything that we missed or can go into more detail? Or if you have any suggestions, feel free to reach out to me and Mignelle, and we can figure out how to do another virtual conversation. But this is a series, just so you all know. We're going to be talking about credit, real estate, entrepreneurship. We're going to talk about all things financial literacy, money management, and how do we get to the bag.
Yes, I like it. I like it. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure. I appreciate you.